so thankful to God for allowing me to be here to share another episode. As I was asking God, where do I go with this episode? And he spoke and said, you are unstoppable. And I'm mindful of my mother didn't go full-term pregnancy with any of her children. I was born 6 months. I lived in an incubator for 3 months fighting for my life. I was so small, I can fit in the palm of their hand. But as I laid in that incubator, I can just only imagine the fight in me and the enemy desiring to sift me as wheat, destroy me, stop me from coming through. But God had already ordained unstoppable on me. So I am so grateful that I made it. I made it through. And going through all the horrific things that I've suffered in my life, from sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, spiritual abuse, financial abuse, you name it, I've been there. And so every time I turned around, there was something, someone, some situation, some circumstance that tried to stand in my way to block me, to stop me. Either it was a jealous friend, or it was a betrayal of a loved one, a family member, a child. And whatever someone tried to do to stop me from getting to this moment where I can freely share my story, because, oh, what a story I have to tell. And don't you ever let nobody stop you from telling yours. And if you're going to tell your story, make sure you tell the truth, because you are unstoppable. I want to share growing up again with my mom. It was a very, very difficult time for me. For those of you that know me, you know that my mom was very, very, very abusive. You know, oftentimes I think about how her families, her family members, let me say that, a lot of them knew how abusive she was and how mentally off she was, and that no one dared to stand between her and all that she was doing, either to her children, herself, or others, because people were too afraid. And then back then you had people that were nosy, minding their business at the same time. Ooh. Nosy and yet minding their business at the same time. I can remember in the projects, my mom would beat me outside in front of people. My neighbor that stayed next door to us, when we would throw out the trash, they would look over at me, have this sad look on their face, because they can hear the throwing against the wall, the beatings, the screaming, the yelling, the cussing, the stomping. They can hear it because those walls were not thick. And yet all they could do is just look at me. And my mom did a piece of beatings on me, especially during my school days. I loved school. I loved the fact that I can get straight A's. I had a B here and there, but when I got in high school, my grades were still strong, but then they started to crumble, because something about when I got to high school, because in the 5th, in the 6th, in the 7th, in the 8th, she was raw and ridiculously abusive towards me. But when I got to the 9th grade, she went to a whole nother level of beatdown. Yeah, my mom beat me so bad through high school. And it is sad that she did everything that she could to stop me from graduating. I remember, like I said before, I was in the 7th or 8th grade and she had just finished beating the hell out of me. And she began, like I said, she stomped all the way up the stairs pushed the door back. I thought it was going to go through the wall. And she looked at me and she said, "You're going to be a slut, a tramp, a whore, a prostitute. You ain't going to be SHIT." And as I